coming out of that heckler. And we haven't seen it in other scenes so much just yet. Of course, one of the Oceanic departures, Keen, loves to play that in the mid lane for Gravity in NA, but been mostly a top lane pick right here after they increased the healing coming out from that W. Very immovable in the top lane.
Yeah, some more bans as well. We had Nidalee there, the second man for Direwolves, and Lissandra, the last one for Avant. Kassadin also getting a ban there as well. Some real respect there to Kensti. You have to think he's been playing a ton of Kassadin since basically forever. And reminder as well, we are on the current live patch with Tristana disabled, so a lot different stuff here coming through.
Yeah, the Ahri ban, of course, definitely symptomatic of that 5.2 change, right? That's so strong on this patch. And as you mentioned, the respect ban for Kassadin. So potentially 3 mid lane bans coming out from Direwolves right here. Of course, the Nidalee been seeing so much play in the EU LCS and across the world in the jungle role, still can potentially be that mid lane champion as well.
Yeah, Nidalee a pretty good flex pick in general, so nice to see that one being taken off the board. And players clearly done their homework here, banning out a lot of the common champions that are starting to see more play. They'll obviously find them in their solo queue games as well. And Avant are taking their time here on their first pick, but they do have to make one very soon, and they're going to go with a very standard one. It's Janna.
Yeah, they waited so long, I thought maybe they were cooking up something special for us right here, but going with the Janna, the standard roaming support, so much potential for disengage in the late game. A very safe first pick, because although it shows that maybe your 2v2 lane won't be the strongest 2v2, in the late game you know you're going to have that disengage flavor. So just a very safe, flexible pick to start things off.
Yeah, Janna, a fantastic support. So we'll see what the Wolves want to answer with here. They've had a lot of mixed success, that, although they have changed a lot around as well. Perfection sort of came in halfway through last year for Direwolves and can play almost anything. He's a very strong player. And of course, Soulstrike as well, the new jungler. Who knows what he plays, but I'm guessing he plays a lot of the Java and a lot of the Rek'Sai, although that's seeing a little less play as well.
Yeah, I mean, the obvious respect ban against Direwolves in past days would have been Rippy's Udyr right here. Of course, now that he's moved to the management position, no need to ban that away. And again, we're kind of waiting for the teams to define themselves. We can bring in stats, we can talk about the history, but given how much has changed on both sides, there's some unique flavor that can come out for both teams here.
Yeah, and Corki going to be a pick up there. That'll be King's AD carry, it looks like, but a very curious pick here for Soulstrike. A nerfed Rek'Sai is going to be their second pick.
And look, Rek'Sai is still a very powerful champion. She doesn't have quite the same dueling and skirmishing in the early levels. We'll probably see a lot more farming to 6, but once you have, with that global mobility, I mean, there's so few champions that have true globals that are competitive already in this day and age. She still has a very flexible build path. Don't have to build a lot of damage on that champion to be really relevant in a team fight. So I like the pickup right here, but we kind of have to monitor it just because there has been quite significant changes to her kit.
Yeah, and it's in a couple of plays already in the OPL just from day one, but we'll see how Soulstrike can go on it. Jarvan was open as well, didn't opt to take that, so maybe that's something the Avant looked to snap up as well. Shelby, a seasoned Jarvan player and also a big Lee Sin player as well, so lots of comfort open for him as well.
I mean, I remember mostly the good old days when it was all about Shelby's Nocturne. That was his big champion. The carry flavor coming out from Shelby. He's moved to more of those utility champions like the Jarvan, but I know that once in a while, especially on the big stage, he likes to put those carry pants on. So there's still the potential for that maybe later in the draft.
Yeah, instead going to hide that jungle pick for now and go with Gnar and Ezreal as their 2 and 3. So very interesting picks from Avant, but some pretty strong, pretty standard stuff overall.
And this Ezreal, I mean, you might think, all right, Ezreal Janna, it's going to be a weak lane, but Ezreal, we've seen so much mid Ezreal across all scenes, whether it's the LPL, the LCK, I'm sure it's going to creep into the OPL right here. My bet, and of course it's a flexible one, it is a flex pick coming out for Ezreal, is that it's going to be an Ezreal mid.
I think especially with the Corki already shown, that's a very good call as well. And with Kensi loving to play, he's an old-time Ziggs player. I think having a very safe long-range champion is something he's very comfortable with.
Absolutely.
We'll see what Direwolves want to go through for as well. We've got a bit more to do in this draft. Looks like an Ashe over there. Probably not going to be the pick. Instead, a very comfort pick there for Sharp and Xerath. And an Annie probably fits the bolt for Chopper.
Yeah, the long range from Xerath, of course, so safe in the mid lane. We've been seeing even blind pick Xerath's first pick. Early bans in drafts, but the first pick Xerath's even coming out, despite he does have some unfavorable lane matchups. Kassadin, one of them, is banned away here. He's so safe in generally 99% of the other matchups. It's fine to blind pick that champion, just see what the enemy has to respond to it.
Yeah, and Avant interestingly looking maybe at something different. He can use the Ezreal flex pick quite nicely if they do want to go for a counter mid lane matchup as well. Kensi has a pretty deep champion pool. I think once upon a time was maybe just a Ziggs play, kind of like Sharp interestingly enough, but certainly has expanded that champion pool, played a wide variety of champions to win his team the regional final last year, and we'll see what Avant want to do.
Yeah, they're thinking about the LeBlanc right here. Obviously, you can tell the assassin flavor against the long-range Xerath. Going to try and punish him in lane. It does get to the scale if LeBlanc doesn't start snowballing, where Xerath just kind of outranges and outpokes LeBlanc and makes her life hell in the late game. But if you can get ahead in the early game, get the wards down, especially if they do, they lock in the Vi right here. They do have that point-and-click initiation. if LeBlanc's right there, they're skirmishing, the 2v2, if they can get an invade going on the enemy jungle, a lot of power from those two picks.
And Vi, probably a champion worth bringing up here as well. Starting to see a lot more play just in general. What is it about Vi that draws so many junglers to her now?
I mean, she's very reliable. I mean, to have just an ultimate like that, she's very reliable for those engages. And since we see quite a lot of invading for vision, there's been more and more skirmishes between junglers and potentially the rotations coming in from the laners as well. Her early damage with that Vault Break is actually very high. She can do a lot of burst damage almost instantly. So if you can win those early skirmishes, snowball yourself to 6, having that reliable engage is a massive tool, and that's why Vi's seeing a bit more play.
Yeah, Perfection did hover a favorite champion for a while in Jace, but will go with Aurelia for his top lane instead. So very strong teams across the board. Actually, don't feel like in the draft that either team really got anything other than what they were looking for.
I mean, the only thing I'd say is that because you have that LeBlanc, you're looking for a bit more mid-game supremacy on Avant's side, but they don't necessarily fall off in the late game. You've got potentially the blue Ezreal coming out of Missouri right here, or Maz as he's named at the moment. Potentially, I mean, it has that lower gold cap, so you can get to 6 items earlier. So I'd expect that in the mid game, going to be a lot of power coming out from Avant, particularly when you get those first 2 items coming out from Ezreal. But it's very balanced across the board. You've got that Gnar versus Aurelia matchup in the top. A lot of balanced lane matchups, but still with the potential for snowball as in any competitive game.
And how do you feel about the top lane now as well? We've seen a lot of Aurelia into Gnar, but Gnar has seen a couple of changes since his kind of foray into the competitive scene early on. How does Gnar handle now in the top lane?
I mean, the only real change has been centered around the Q, right? It's about having just a little bit less cooldown reduction on catching the boomerang right there. So in a bad lane matchup, maybe in a 1v2 situation, a little bit harder to farm from range right there. Of course, has a ranged auto attack most of the laning phase, so can still farm very safely. In a 1v1 against Aurelia, it's always, like almost every Aurelia matchup, she does scale and gets so strong around that level 7, level 9, gets those points and those abilities that Gnar can find it hard, but it's a skill matchup. It's a very even matchup right there. So I'd be surprised to see a big advantage, whether it was in a 1v2 or even if it was in that 1v1.
Yeah, interesting to think about as well. I think Corki, very strong picker as well against Ezreal. Almost curious to see that Missouri wanted to take Ezreal into this bottom lane, especially with a more passive support like Janna. But, I mean, you talked about the Ezreal flex pick. It seems like Kenzie just wanted a slightly better matchup mid lane, maybe.
Yeah, I would imagine that it was to do with that Xerath pick. It was almost they forced their hand to pick, what is it, an unfortunate 2v2 matchup, but does have potential for lane swaps right there. We haven't seen a lot of lane swaps in the OPL so far. I believe none in the first day, so that's still something that could be broken out for the first time right here. But in a 2v2 matchup, really do struggle with that AoE, harass, or poke coming out of the Phosphorus Bomb, and the fiercely single target Ezreal. The no sustain coming out from Janna makes it a difficult 2v2 matchup to stand up to.
Yeah, I think in the mid lane, a smart summoner choice there as well coming through. Xerath does have the barrier. Going to make that Knight a little less potent there for Kenzie, but Kenzie is a very interesting play to me. He seems to want to play safe quite a lot, but has definitely shown a lot of very smart, aggressive play when it feels like he can go in and get kills. So he's not afraid to make plays for his team. It was a big point of their win last season as well. And we'll see if he's still playing as well as he is. I think Shelby as well has to be a big call out here as well. When he's playing well, his whole team looks fantastic.
Absolutely. Shelby is kind of the barometer for this Avant team right here. When he's good, he's been on the team for a very long time. He's a very consistent player. But especially when he gets ahead, he can snowball his team, and that's a rare quality for a jungler. It's a sign of a top jungler if he's able to snowball the wins right there. And look, he's got Vi, a very snowball jungler. If you get level 6 early on Vi and surprise the enemy with that ultimate, you can influence multiple lanes. The Vault Breaker is a good ganking tool for damage. The ultimate's that amazing lockdown.
And we just touched on both the mid and the jungler here as well. Maybe let's look at the duo synergy, because for me, that was one of the biggest questions coming in here is, can Sharp and Rippy, who were not just, good players, but good friends inside and outside of the game, that synergy's gone now for Direwolves. So maybe starting with Avant, is Shelby and Kenzie going to really be able to bully with the Vi, especially on kind of in a mobile champion like Xerath?
I mean, you'd expect so. It's one of those situations where Xerath will probably be happy to hang back, happy to clear waves, has the barrier if there's an aggressive turret dive right here. So he's not going to be looking to win the lane. He's going to be looking to get, maybe come within 10 CS, 15 CS right there. He's going to be happy to be denied a little bit just because, again, in the late game, LeBlanc has to distort, get into those short ranges to try and fish for the chains. Xerath's happy to sit back at 1,000 range and clear waves, even in the late game, and LeBlanc will eat a lot of damage if she tries to go for that aggressive harass right there. So it's kind of matchup where Sharp's happy to play on the back foot, but you can exploit that if you're Avant. You can take the very aggressive dueling duo of LeBlanc and Vi and really look to abuse the power spikes of 6. Once the 6 comes up, the Mimic and then the Assault and Battery respectively. If you can actually come together, push that wave in mid and do the roam, so much gank pressure coming out of that duo in skirmishes.
I feel like Rek'Sai, though, kind of has an interesting spot in this matchup as well. Rek'Sai in general just feels very good when you want to really engineer plays and be intelligent with your map movement, because she still has a very low cooldown knockup.
But it's one of those situations where, okay, Xerath's going to play passive, and if I was going to use an analogy, this would be like an Anivia in terms of it's going to be anchored to the mid lane, it's going to be slow to rotate to any jungle invades. So let's say that Avant play on the front foot. They want to go get those aggressive wards in. They start to get in the enemy jungle. There's never that neural network set up of tunnels. You can kind of see the potential for snowball in terms of map control. If Avant can be really proactive, get that control in the enemy jungle and get going from there, that might negate all of Rek'Sai's global pressure. Yep. But if it's just left even, it could go the other way.
Yeah, pretty interesting to see how we do line up with our first game as we are into the game now. Avant versus Direwolves for their first OPL match here as well. Avant on the blue side here for this best of one. Direwolves over on the red.
Yeah, we've seen consistently defensive fanning coming out from the teams in the OPL so far. We haven't seen the aggressive invades of other scenes right here, so I expect the same right here, but I'm ready for something different on the strategic front at level 1.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Remember, it's both these teams' first time playing here on the OPL stage, so they might want to just, feel each other out, be a little more careful than they might otherwise be, but we'll see if they've done their homework and really prepared here. They could get quite aggressive at level 1 as well.
And it could be this player's first exposure to a league setting as well. It's going to be a long season, each team playing 14 games, so there's a lot to get used to in the format, a lot to get used to in terms of the stakes they're playing for right here. So it's understandable if we see a bit of a quieter start.
Yeah, we'll have to see it. Shelby looking to maybe start on the red side of his jungle. Soul Strike's going to look to start on the same side, actually, over on his red. So we'll see how that works out here for early jungle pressure. But it seems like nothing too insane going to happen here, level 1.
Now we see Kenzie doing a bit of harassing around the map here. They're just getting wards down. They're poking out. They're trying to get a feel for what's happening right here. If I was a betting man, I'd say stand lanes, just if we're talking about where people are on the minimap right here. But there's always potential for rotation.
Yeah, Chuffer here as well. Hasn't skilled a point to anything yet, actually. Maybe saving that Q for lane, but thinking about the W if he wants to get aggressive. And Chuffer definitely a player who formerly played AD carry for Direwolves. It's funny to see him swap into the support position here, but King looks to be playing well as well. Kind of curious to see what Chuffer can bring to, the other side of bottom lane.
And of course, historically also a mid laner as well. So he does have the AP mid mechanics down. He's on this Annie right here. Of course, has the aggressive flavor coming in there. Annie Koki's a very interesting lane. So much magic damage coming right there. You really have to be mindful of that if you're Junie, especially on that squishy Janna. If you're locked down, you can die in a quick burst.
Yeah, and Chuffer does have Ignite for the summoner spells as well, so could really look to get an all-in going early in Direwolves. And when Chuffer played AD, Direwolves were very aggressive, even on champions like Caitlyn and Tristana. So if Chuffer wants to go in, you bet his team's following him in with him.
And you never lose that playstyle. If you're an aggressive mid player, you're going to be an aggressive support player. That's just the way you work. And if you play on the front foot, like Chuffer always used to in the past, you have more potential to make the enemy make a mistake than you do yourself. You want to play aggressive, you want to play proactive, and you make the enemies react to you.
Yeah, we can see Shelby now kind of cruising through his jungle as well. Does finally get his red buff and walk over towards the blue side of his jungle, back towards the bottom now as well. King and Truffet is pushing in fairly aggressively with their Corki, Annie, and Bazooey and Junie just going to hang out back and try and get whatever CS they can from range.
So this could actually be there's a potential for a very passive early game here, just because we've seen a lot of Vias farming up to 6. Rek'Sai also has the same flavor, so we might not see the early lane ganks right here. And all the lanes are kind of predictable. We're going to see Direwolves pushing in the bottom lane here. They just have so much more AoE than their opponents. In the mid lane, Xerath probably has a little bit of a pushing advantage early. It kind of warps in terms of peaks and troughs in this mid lane matchup. It's going to be largely even with Xerath with that barrier betraying the fact he's going to play safe. He's just going to look to farm up. And in the top lane, it's such an even skill matchup right here. There is the potential for the jungle ganks, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see quite a long laning phase this game.
Yeah, you mentioned those level 6 junglers. That is likely going to keep things pretty quiet here. Good stun by Perfection, though. We'll just look to tread in onto that Mega now, but bad game low. Going to be back in the mini now fairly soon as well, so we might be able to continue his harassment, but very even in the top side of the map right now. And Aurelia now, especially for Aurelia, she really just wants things to hang back and farm.
So the first item buy that we see is Soul Strike's coming out with the Chilling Smite right there and the Pink Ward. Of course, the Pink Ward going to be very good for trying to deny some vision. But it's interesting to see someone starting up with that blue jungle item right there, just because there is the opportunity to pick up the purple Ranger's Trailblazer, get the AoE wave clear early on the minion camps, and then return to ganking after, because it's free to swap between the ranges and the Chilling Smite. It looks like he's going to go for a gank.
Yeah, and like this gank coming in there, bad game low will get up, and a good knockup there comes through after the flash, and First Blood easily goes over to perfection.
Yeah, I took so long explaining the point, he actually put it to use right there. Because I expected the passive farming, picking up the Chilling Smite right there betrayed the fact that, all right, he might go for the early ganks. He likely surprised bad game low on the top, the sub playing this game. And now he's on the back foot. First blood to Direwolves.
Yeah, and the Rek'Sai knockup, very potent, especially if you use your flash. So kind of much like Vi, you often get one flash gank pre-6 with a jungle like Rek'Sai. And Shelby, he hasn't gone for an early gank yet, just farming up very quickly, already level 4.
It was very smart to use the flash there just because if you try and use the tunnel, it's such a slow-moving spell that with all the mobility Bad Game Law has on that Gnar, you just surprise them by cancelling any opportunity for an escape. It's a smart play coming out of the jungler from Direwolves.
Yeah, and a big lead early on for perfection. Now 35-20 in CS after that First Blood. Of course, got the First Blood as well, so plenty of gold to go back and spend. Looks like the wave's going to get shoved into the turret now by perfection, and Bad Game Law's going to have a bit of a rough time early on.
And in bot lane, just as we expected, the 10 CS advantage for Corki so far. I mean, Maz will do his best to stop it from growing, but it's just, you can only do so much as the fiercely single-target Ezreal before 6.
Yeah, they're pretty much just trying to keep this wave at this point as much as they possibly can and farm up aggressively. But King and Chuff are still pushing and very aggressively pushing the wave towards the turret. You know, Chuff with the stun as well can threaten, especially once he hits level 6.
And so players might wonder, why are they pushing so hard right here? Because they are theoretically open to ganks from 2 entries. And look, right here, right on time.
Yeah, Shelby's coming in. Perfectional is going to use that teleport down. So Junie actually going to get stunned. That's a great double stun from Chuff. And now King dives in. Perfection goes in for the next one as well. Chopper getting a little too aggressive. Takes a tower hit though, and King looks to go down into Shelby, who's got so much damage. But Perfection will answer. Now Kenzie rotating in is going to look for Chopper now. The good Tornado is going to move in for Junie. That's a kill for Kenzie with a great roam. Sharp still in the middle, and Perfection dives in. Gets the double though, picks up Massa. Might be able to get out. He's a little low though. A good chains there for Kenzie. Too many minions, and Perfection goes down.
3 kills there for Avant. Gives them a significant advantage in that rotation. They didn't use teleport. They used a lot less resources, and they got a lot out of it. So a big win early for Avant.
Yeah, just a really nice roam there for Kenzie, immediately coming through. Had clearly been pushing his lane up fairly aggressive because now Sharp is starting to get the minions into the turret, and he did work in the bottom lane on LeBlanc.
So see a replay. It's a very long fight. Shelby's first instinct is to back out, which makes sense. They've got the perfection. We knew that he got an item advantage in the bot lane right here. But when Chuffer takes this turret hit, it's such a massive amount of his health that this is when things go bad for Direwolves. The first kill comes out, and then the rotation from Kenzie is so decisive. This is what we were saying about the LeBlanc versus Xerath matchup, is that LeBlanc's always going to be on the front foot when it comes to rotation. So much more mobility coming out right there from Kenzie on that LeBlanc. Very nice mechanics on the kill. They pick up 3, and that's the snowball. We talked about it. We wanted to see the early snowball from Kenzie. He's gotten started, 2-0 already.
Yeah, still has a small CS lead as well, despite the roam. So looking very strong for the LeBlanc here on the Avant side. And I think one of the other things that illustrates quite nicely is Vi does a lot of damage.
Yeah, that's the thing. People forget this, that if you hit your abilities, especially that Vault Breaker, the burst coming out from the W procs and that third auto from E is really significant burst very quickly right there. But I mean, just to return to the point I was going to talk about, because if you do push in the wave aggressively as the Corki right here, of course you're going to deny CS and get harassment onto Ezreal, but you also open up room for Soul Strikes on this Rek'Sai to get those aggressive wards in and just a jungle more aggressively with how the lane was pushing right there. They were punished for it in that instinct, but that's the standard indication we're going to see right there. We're going to see the pushing coming out just to open up aggression and map vision for Direwolves.
Yeah, I mean, Direwolves, I guess, are happy to push 2 of their lanes if they assume that Sharp's going to get pushed in the mid as well. And Perfection, you can see, with his Fate and the Sapphire Crystal done as well, moving in towards the Sheen. Playing very aggressively. They're very far forward on his Aurelia, and he might be the person to really push through for the Wolves mid-game. And Soul Strike is actually aggroed the Dragon here. He's found a ward as well. Dragon's actually dealing him damage, and Dragon does not mess around on the damage front, but no Dragon attempt there for Direwolves. Just going to clean out the vision for themselves.
Yeah, we didn't see any rotations coming from bottom, so we knew it wasn't coming, but Shelby's going in.
Yeah, Shelby looks to be going in down towards the bottom. Chopper actually already dead off screen as Kenzie looked to roam down there as well. And another good gank by Shelby. Finally hit 6. An easy gank there under the poor squishy Annie.
Yeah, it was almost a surprise how quickly he hit the 6, so it's smart to go instantly to lane to gank. They pick up the kill on Chuffer. Caught once by the turret and second time by the Assault and Battery. Suffering in that bottom lane.
Yeah, and a teleport disadvantage for the Wolves now as well. So Avant looking to secure a very fast early Dragon here for themselves. Going to drop just over the 9-minute mark, or just under it looks like here, as Shelby and friends will get their first Dragon of the OPL.
Yeah, they don't even lose a death for that. They get a free objective completely right there, which is very significant. Seeing Ezreal actually going to the middle for a bit of wave clear right here. Tries to cancel Xerath's back. Doesn't quite manage it. But Avant looking good.
Yeah, Avant looking on form, the same form that won them the last major tournament here in Oceania. Gold still even, though 4-3 in kills for Avant, but that early dragon's going to give them a very nice snowball, especially if Kenzie and his LeBlanc continue to snowball.
And I guess it makes sense that they're the ones picking up the dragon here, because look where the gold has been distributed so far on this Direwolf side. It's all on Aurelia. Perfection's 3-1-0, has all his team's kills, has a 14 CS advantage in the top lane right here. And since he didn't have teleport available right there, not able to contest that objective. So smart understanding by Avant to say, all right, in terms of gold, we're well ahead in the bottom side of the map, so try and push that to our advantage. Pick up that early dragon.
I think, interestingly, though, for the Direwolves, the other person doing quite well is actually King here on this Corki. Despite all the action down the bottom with Kenzie roaming multiple times, he's actually 30 CS or so ahead of Maz here.
And look, part of that is the matchup. We did explain that it's going to be 10 to 15 CS advantage is the par for this Corki versus Ezreal matchup. But we do have to wonder out loud, how are Maz and Juni going to fit into this new lineup right here? Of course, Veritas and Nada, the previous AD carry support, one of the cornerstones of that winning Avant team. So it's a lot of pressure coming into competitive play, making your debut on this Avant side, and really trying to live up to what was a cornerstone of Avant's success.
Yeah, Soulstrike's getting sneaky in the top lane as well, but will back out from that potential brush gank and leave Perfection to his own devices, just because, to be honest, he's very comfortable right now in the position on his Aurelia. Trinity Force will be coming fairly swiftly, you have to think.
Yeah, one more power spike, the Trinity Force being completed, and that's where you have to be really careful if you're Chelby or if there's any aggressive ganks onto Perfection right here, because there's always the potential for Aurelia to turn around a dicey situation with all the CC she has available.
Soulstrike's looking towards the bottom side of the map now, as well as actually used his ulti to move in towards the bottom lane, although actually just going back into the jungle. Of course, as Kenzie there does catch Sharp with a chance. Shelby maybe looking to follow up, but Sharp deep in under his turret will stay safe there for now. I
do have to say that scream coming out from Rek'Sai, I always think that she's going to go for that lane kill, but really she's always ganking those Raptors or perhaps the Krugs.
Loves to gank her own jungle here as Soulstrikes will move through here. Ward's being put down reasonably aggressively by Avant. They're trying to get some vision in here, and that will really open up Kenzie's LeBlanc pick here as well. But a good neural network's been built on the bottom right-hand side of the map though for Direwolf, so Rek'Sai, very control-ish jungler it feels like, doing reasonably well.
And Chelby, for all his gank pressure, he's got the early sight stone here, so it's going to be his job to get into the enemy jungle, get the wards down. If he can, he'll remove those tunnels, but he might not have enough time or be safe enough to be able to do that. So at least if he has vision, it's slightly more predictable, this Rek'Sai's movements.
Yep, Soulstrike, so they're going to clear out the Scuttle Crab here as well. Dragon not quite up yet, so they'll just get that objective over to the jungle. Very important to fight for the neutral buffs, and Scuttle Crab certainly is one of them. We see a lot of junglers really try and take that whenever it's available.
Yeah, when they adjusted the gold on the jungle items right here, it's the 85 gold for killing that Scuttle Crab. And a camp that doesn't do any damage to you. So such a low impact camp, okay, it takes time to kill, especially after the first time it's fallen down. But if you can control it, you just have such a burst of gold compared to your jungle opponent.
And we can see down the bottom as well, the Wolves bottom lane continuing to play reasonably aggressive here. Corki still with a strong CS, though Missouri has caught up a little bit now on his Ezreal. Chuffer is all stunned, ready to go. Actually upgraded his gold item here, looking for a lot of flat AP, and Chuffer is still the aggressive player we know him as.
Yeah, we normally see the very early sidestone coming out right here. But given how aggressive he's playing, it's very interesting to see him go for the selfish choice right here. I guess it's the AP mid flavor, like you say. I guess it's just playing with your tail up right there. And now that she's level 7, a lot of potential damage coming out.
Good stun there coming through as well. Soulstrike's another good knock-up. Chelby flashes, but Soulstrike gets an easy kill and another great Rek'Sai play from Direwolves.
Yeah, punished for his early aggression. You have to say Chelby was playing with his tail up right there, went for the invade, but found two members with a lot of burst damage coming out. It might be the nerfed Rek'Sai, but still plenty of damage coming out from that champion.
Yeah, knock-up's still a knock-up there as well, and that's twice that the flash knock-up's been used fantastically by Soulstrikes. Kenzie, though, going to look to get aggressive. He's got a slim level lead. Sharp does just ding 10 there as well. And Athenes is done here for Xerath, so he's looking pretty comfy now against LeBlanc.
And on my screen, I was seeing the punishing trades coming up the top lane for Perfection. One burst of damage and bad game low, half health already right here. That was using the gap closer to get onto him. He didn't have it for the potential assassination, but this now is in a world of hurt in the top lane.
And you can see why Perfection's already finished up that Trinity Force at around 13.5 minutes, so very strong looking right now on this Aurelia, and level 11 is going to be coming soon. This tower now under threat as well. Dragon up in a minute 10. Perfection with his port back up, looking to really turn things around.
He's doing a lot of damage to this turret already. We see the teleport is available, but understand there could be a potential dragon in a minute. Giving up the turret for free right here. Should be able to DPS all the way down.
Yeah, Perfection just going to go and actually wants to give it up a little bit. Just actually going back in. I think he wants to try and kill Bad Game Law, although maybe trying to deny a few more CS into the turret as well. He does need to buy some time here as well, because the Dragon is going to be set up by either Avant or Direwolves, probably Avant, given that they started with that buff for themselves. And Bad Game Law not having the best time right now, going reasonably defensive with his build as well.
And watching that situation, you might wonder, why didn't he just take down the turret? He realistically could have shrugged off Bad Game Law's damage and taken that objective. But sometimes you want to extend the laning phase if you're winning so hardily in a 1v1, because when the turret goes down, it's so easy to deny CS down, to let the minion wave push in, farm very safely under your second turret, and it's so much more difficult for Perfection to get any 1v1 kills. But in the shorter lane, because of the turret still being up, Perfection can still punish Bad Game Law, this sub right here.
Yeah, it looks like the Dragon's back up in 3 seconds. Shelby looking for a pick very quickly on this Vi, but will back off there with the Vault Breaker. And things are going to get pretty sketchy here for both teams. Perfection's got a good spike. Corki just finished his Trinity Force as well. So Dials, if they want to contest with his second Dragon and their first, this is a very good time to do so.
Yeah, Direwolves have grown a 1,000 gold lead, but the amount of power coming through the Trinity Force isn't reflected just in the gold lead. So much burst coming out from King now on this Corki. Aurelia, of course, we've already seen the power of her trades. And Ezreal, although he's finished the Manament, is still definitely in a massive power trough compared to his Trinity Force opponent.
And I wonder if Perfection just wants to keep Bad Game Law on the top lane and prevent the Gnar from coming in for any sort of team fight. Yes, Aurelia adds a lot at this stage of the game to a fight, but I think Dials might just be happy with their 4v4. In fact, Kenzie going to lose his turret, almost gets stunned there as well by Sharp, and Dials going to look to rotate down maybe.
It's already a big objective. Basically, they can ensure another global turret at any point by Perfection here. Right here could go in, but look, he's just harassing Bad Game On. He's just interested in doing damage. He's not worried about being flung into turret. He's just so strong.
Yeah, looking for the solo now as well. Doesn't quite find it, but no one can walk back there. And Bad Game Law already used his ulti. He's going to be mini now after that as well. Well played in the top lane.
And the mid lane, seeing a lot of aggressive trades between Kenzie and Sharp right here. Didn't use his barrier. Actually held that cooldown despite a nice trade coming in from Kenzie. It's even across the map, but in the top lane, definitely in Direwolves' advantage.
Yeah, Dragon was started there as well by the Avant, sorry. But the Wolves will back in there as well. And we're going to go for some more contests of this vision as well. Soul Strikes again. Good pinks actually by Direwolves around the right-hand side of the jungle towards the Dragon. Soul Strikes looking for another potential knock-up as well, but doesn't quite have his flashback in. Perfection's returning now with a Giant's Belt to this Dragon, but I think they want to go 5v5.
Yeah, I mean, the 5v5 target, of course, would be around this Dragon, but it's going to be so difficult unless they get the Gnar, the Rage up for the Mega Gnar transformation right here. They're going to have to be so careful on their engage against the double Trinity Force power spike right here with the Ezreal, who does have some decent poke, but it's nowhere near the Iceborne Gauntlet yet. Very hard fight to win for Avant.
Kenzie was at his blue buff though, so really strong timing here by the Wolves, but Avant might come in. A good poke comes out into Missouri as well, and Dials are going to secure themselves their first Dragon. True Chopper Rise will go wide, and maybe now going to look for a kill as well. Chuffer has his stun and the ulti ready. King goes very aggressive on Missouri, who gets chunked very low, and now the Zerathon is going to come up. Missouri gonna not dodge the last one, and Sharp cleans him up.
It's all three of those level 11 Zerath ultimates right there. Wonderful play from Sharp. Starting to see the mechanics that have taken him to the top of Challenger. Hugely impressive from that Zerath.
Really strong play there from Direwolves. We've been seeing a lot of Zerath snipes lately, and that was one of the better ones here. Now Direwolves going to push on to the tier 2 now as well, and they are just so strong at this stage of the game.
And with double Trinity Force, they're doing so much damage to the tower, but the engage is on.
Going in, Chuffer in trouble, though, does go down to the ulti. Great now result by Bad Game Law. Wall of Soul Strikes in there, and there's the double for Vi. Avant answered back massive there.
So much burst damage coming out from Chubby. He's going in.
Good for the triple as well, but King's going to turn it around. There's going to be the kill. Perfection now going to run him back, and Bad Game Law's running out of health, and the Naba. Perfection diving back in. Randall's got popped. The Junie will maybe go down instead now, and that's going to be a trade. A double for Corki perhaps, as Missouri going to come back around, and it's a bloodbath now. Maz actually in a whole host of trouble. King with the last auto for the double.
You see the power of the Trinity Force Corki right there. He was below 40% health against a full health Maz, but just the nature of power spikes right there meant that Maz could do nothing, but Kenzie gets the answering kill.
And the short death time is making it a bloodbath here, back and forth across the mid lane. I think that was 3 for 2 or maybe 4 for 3 over the course of that fight, but a lot of people died. Now 8 and 8 in kills.
The OPL definitely taking nods from the Chinese scene with these super long team fights right here. Death is not enough to keep you from cleaning up a fight.
No, not at all here, and we're going to see it again.
So we see the fights. A huge burst of damage coming out the start of the fight from Chuffer right here. An instant double kill, basically. coming in right here. And this is where Direwolves move back. But note, the two people with significant power spikes are still alive. King and Perfection. That's why it's too aggressive from Shelby. He thinks they can get one kill up and win the engage. But there's just so much consistent burst coming out of both Perfection and King. This target change here onto Journey 1, the Equilibrium strike up, was perfect. The name actually suits him right there, and it's just wonderful play from King at this. And understanding and judging his damage output right here. Of course, he'll feel bad, Ezreal, that the auto followed him so far away, but he sealed his own fate.
Yeah, King played that really nicely, just doing so much damage with the Corki. He's going to look to do even more of that dueling as well. He's got a Blade of the Ruined King coming up next.
It's interesting to see the Blade picked up here. Of course, if he'd gone for the Bloodthirst, it would be just a bit more poke under turrets. Of course, the Rockets and the Phosphorus Bomb do magic damage, scaling on that AD. But what it does mean is that he's got that self-peel against potentially Gnar or Vi getting on top of him. There's a lot of people trying to chase down the already mobile Corki, so that burst of healing might be very useful.
That's a good stun there for Shop. Kenzie looking to chase in. True Shot Barrage will be enough after the auto attack from the Blanc. Very well played.
Yeah, the auto following just the side of that Ezreal ultimate, just enough damage. Sharp will feel a bit sheepish for dying right there, but the trades are still on the top.
Yeah, and Avant actually take out the turret now as well. Perfection seems to be going back in as well, but Avant are going to stay grouped here, try and push out the tier 2 turret as well. Back him low. Seems like he'll get away there.
So Direwolves definitely don't want to lose any sort of advantage in this situation. They have to be very conscious of the fact that they have a lot of power in the top lane. They have to be careful. Finally, the turret just falls. Note, he kept the turret up to 20 minutes there purposefully to try and grow his advantage in the top lane. The CS doesn't reflect it, but this is a massive Aurelia.
I mean, we'll tab over quickly to the gold as well. Perfection is reasonably far ahead, actually, and is going back in onto poor Kenzie, just diving in here onto the LeBlanc. Good shield. He's going to follow through. Great knock up there as well, and Kenzie gets the kill.
Yeah, Kenzie fancied the assassination on the assassin right there. Did not bank on so much cavalry coming around. Very nice rotation from Avant. They'll take this top turret as well, but there's a lot of damage coming in.
Yeah, King moving in, but the tower will fall there. Avant going to clean up that structure, but Direwolves might be able to answer here. Sharp is caught in the mid lane. Kenzie actually in the bush does get away there with the rocket going slightly wide. Bad game loss should be able to get away as well. And Avant are doing very well now. They've started grouping a lot more as 5.
And Shelby has been the most proactive one. He has done so great in rotations. We see Sharp and Chuff are probably going to tank up this turret. They pick up another objective, so you can see every objective is counted by another one. Actually, it was 21 minutes. I apologize. It's finally the top turret falling right there. I love the fact that Perfection understood the matchup well enough and his own power spike to extend the laning phase beyond what was necessary. Although it would have been nice to have 100 gold in everyone's pocket, denying this Gnar and stopping any safe farm coming out of the top lane might prove more important for Direwolves.
Yeah, Perfection's been paid off massively for that as well. He's got a Randy Zoman already done with his Trinity Force at 22 minutes or so. And the one big worry with Aurelia is that you get your Trinity Force and never get tanky again. That is not a problem for Perfection this game.
For 21 minutes, it's a wonderful item timing right here. Can basically shrug off the damage from everyone other than Kenzie, who's basically going to be diving straight past him, hoping to kill one of Xerath or Corki.
Yep, absolutely. Now, as Avant will look to group around for maybe some vision around the next dragon that's going to be back up in about 50 seconds. Going to walk over to Pinkwood. Junie, though, will spot it up. Perfection, a little too far forward. Going to go in 1v3. Kenzie can get low here, but good damage already with the Rabadons being completed. But Perfection going to dive in, doesn't get the kill, and Kenzie now dominating at 6-0-1.
Yeah, all for the compliments for Perfection. We have to also question why he's playing so aggressive with no ward coverage right there. He had no idea there was so many people coming, and Avant, they've rotated top, they've rotated bottom, they've taken all the outer turrets right here, and they're getting free kills along the way.
The Scuttlecrow goes down. Mazui actually pops the Ezreal ulti. They're trying to maybe start a fight. Iceborne Gauntlet has been completed for this Ezreal, so a lot more control now in team fights for Avant.
It's such a significant power spike right here, because although his right-click damage is very low, that poke, the amount of control that the Iceborne Gauntlet provides in Ezreal is very significant right here. And Shelby, he's actually snowballed to this point. He's already got a Locket of the Iron Solari, which will help with the magic damage coming in from the Annie and the Xerath right here. So it should be it should be good for them right here, but you have to be careful.
Yeah, we will see. The Dragon is back up here. It's 1-1 currently on the Dragon counter. So we'll see which team is going to get their second here. Avant would like it, but Dio is still very strong here at this midpoint of the game. Things have slowed down a little bit, but with now a 2-item power spike for King's Corki as well, Dials are more than happy to fight 5v5.
You can see Kenzie's not committing to contesting this dragon right now. He's been in the mid lane. He's the person who really has the pick potential. He needs to be in the front lines and get a pick.
Dragon getting low, 50-50. Shelby gets it though, but Junie gets stunned up in the back. Mazui getting low, but Kenzie dives into the backline, but a great stun there from Sharp, looking to take him out. The ulti though from AV will reset there as Jana tries a good double Gnar into the wall as well, and King just goes go down there. Rek'Sai gets wrecked as well. 3 kills for 1.
The Gnar was massive by Bad Game though. He might have had a horror laning phase, but made up for it in that team fight. Could build so tanky right there. And again, so much gold on King and Perfection. Perfection was a complete non-factor in that fight.
Yeah, it was a bystander, unfortunately. Now going to watch his turret potentially go down as well. Shuffer is here as well to defend, but the turret is going to melt here with the Ezreal and the Gnar, especially with the Janna Shield helping out as well. So maybe even looking for a steal now as well. Shelby will instead just counter jungle the Raptor camp a little. Perfection's actually going to find him, maybe looking to go in, and Shelby's going to give it up.
But look, Direwolves have kind of created their own downfall. They've engineered their own downfall right here, with Perfection just playing overly aggressive in side lanes, getting caught by the Avant rotations, and then just not team fighting smartly right here. So Perfection, again, is completely separated from his team as this fight starts. We see him around the back right here. The amount of Wombo coming onto King when Shelby finally gets that ultimate onto Soulstrikes is huge. And the double Gnar on both carries. You can't ask for much more right there. Perfection's around the back. Basically a bystander.
Yeah, got exhausted once he finally got to the fight as well, and couldn't really get anything done. Chuffer actually babysitting him here a little in the top lane, but Perfection totally fine on his own right now in this Aurelia. Really the biggest member here as far as gold goes for Direwolves, but with Avant now having a slight gold lead, plus being up in Dragons, Perfection, especially when he's not at fights, just doesn't have the impact that Aurelia wants to be having.
And you see the impact of the global gold and the one team fights right here, most squarely on Maz right here. Had a horrible laning phase. We saw when he was 1v1 by a 40% HP Corki. He was really struggling on the item timings, but very quickly now, the Iceborne Gauntlet we already spoke about, but the CDR boots, and now the makings of a Last Whisper right here. It's a lot of power quickly coming from this Ezreal.
You talk about a rough lane. King is more than 100 CS ahead in that particular matchup. That is actually a fairly insane creep score. 282 at almost 26 minutes.
I'll have to check my adjectives there, Pastry Time. He was really, really struggling in lane. But all this grouping, look how much it's paid off right here. They've shrugged off their horror laning phase and now are looking very competitive in a fight.
Yeah, Kings has so much gold, by the way. Dials really need to keep him alive in fights, and that double now really hurt. Kenzie being pretty fed as well does not help here. He's got a Rabadon's and almost done his Void Staff at just past the 26-minute mark, so this LeBlanc is looking very scary.
And we're kind of seeing the other side of the argument that, all right, Blue Ezreal gets to late game very early because his items are cheap, but then he falls off compared to a normal AD carry. But when you're this far behind, he's actually 3,000 gold in the hole compared to his lane opponent. He's actually getting to a very interesting amount of power cheaply. So once he finishes his Last Whisper, okay, he won't be able to right-click down enemy champions in the same manner, but his poke is definitely going to stick, and he's going to do damage to every member, even the tanky Perfection.
And really what he just wants to do is complement Kenzie right now, who's had a very good game early on, and if LeBlanc can get in there, especially with the help from some of the slows by that Ezreal, Maz is doing his job still.
But I mean, look, the gold is so close right here, 100 to 200 gold lead for Avant. Equal in structures. I believe a slight advantage in Dragons for Avant, but this game's all tied up right here. And if Perfection and King get the right fight with the amount of gold and the power spikes they've hit, Direwolves can easily come back into this game.
Yeah, King just finished up a Last Whisper as well, so power spikes are plenty for the Wolves side as well. But Avant being very aggressive in their rotations once again now, moving in towards the tier 2 in bottom lane, and Direwolves might try and fight them up this turret here.
They have some pretty good vision as well, Avant, but I think more crucially, I don't see enough defensive wards coming out for the Direwolves right here. They do have the potential to catch this Avant team in transition. We've talked about rotation so many times right here, shades of Monte Cristo with that word, but they've played so smartly moving around the map, and all of that has been completely unbeknownst to Direwolves. That's why we've seen Perfection out of position so often. That's why we've seen the advantages come out for Avant. They need to double down on these defensive wards to make sure that Avant's movement is more predictable.
Yeah, and Avant's starting a very aggressive Baron as a result of the lack of vision here for Direwolves, and Baron dies fairly quickly at this point. It's already at almost half health in this one. Soulstrike will probably know what's happening now. Going to throw ward over the back and knows, okay, I have to do something. Avant, though, immediately back off the Baron. Very smart call.
Yeah, there wasn't enough trade tanking coming out, and they needed Gnar to actually be tanking that Baron because Shelby got so low that he couldn't realistically show up to a smite fight because he could have died in the AoE when any sort of counter engage came in from Direwolves. So they have to back away from that Baron. It was a very smart call given the nature of the game, given they know that the wards were down. Through Soul Strikes, Kenzie's definitely doing some good damage.
Yeah, he's 236 CS here. About 15 or so over Sharp, who's had a decent game as well, but when LeBlanc especially finishes that Void Stuff, things are going to just look bad, although Kenzie now, Penalty getting dove on, does manage to flash the Q, but the damage is going to come in a good double stun for Chuffer, actually, who uses the bear just to ensure the kill and Perfection nabs it up.
Yeah, for once, it's an Avant member that's caught in the transition right there. We see Rek'Sai coming very fast to mid. It doesn't look like there's any real advantages they can push right here. There'll be about a 10 to 15 second lapse between Keen respawning and being able to get to this dragon. But they need to double down the wards around this objective if they want to stop that third dragon coming down for Avant.
Yeah, and they do need to stop some of the dragon snowball as well, do Direwolves. Junie, though, will clean out a ward here on his John and make sure Direwolves get a little bit less vision here. And sort of one of the interesting things about Rek'Sai to me is that you get a lot of strong defensive vision with your tunnels in your own jungle, but if you don't get your forward aggressive vision, you can't really ever leave your side of the map.
Yeah, the global mobility we speak about is so often half the map, just because you have that neural network. You can get to all your camps easily, but it's only if you can get a really fortuitous tunnel to get any sort of flank off for Soul Strikes that'll be able to get a surprise engage. If it's a 5v5 situation, it's very hard to get that knock-up just because you kind of have to come from the front in a linear fashion, unless you're already winning so hard that you're able to have those aggressive tunnels behind the enemy.
It's one of those things where we've seen a lot of Sightstone junglers recently now as well, and Rek'Sai, at least in this build, is just not a jungler that provides that same sort of vision control. Though Maz actually may have caught out Soul Strikes here. Bad game though. Going to dive in there as well. Looking to transfer into Megan. Now Shelby just goes in with the damage, but a good stun there for Sharp, and King is just dishing out the damage right now on Corki, but the Enderathod's going to try and help him. They do peel one. Bad game Leonor coming in as well. Soul Strikes will move into defend, and that's the first kill actually. Sharp gets a second there, and a great fight for Direwolves.
Yeah, the danger of diving a Xerath you can see right there, but the fight's still going.
Yeah, Perfection not done. Jumps in onto Junie. King there moves in. Mikhail's Crucible and a heal keeps him alive, but that might just give the dragon to the Wolves.
There just wasn't enough communication on that dive right there. Sharp was able to free hit at the back of Xerath. Again, he's so accurate with those ultimates right there. Was able to pick up Chelby as he was fighting. They also take the other frontliner in bad game low, and they have to evacuate. So we see the replay right here. A lot is used, and importantly, Chelby misses his Vault Breaker, so there's less burst damage coming out right here. And in killing King, again, the skill shots are so on point. And the front line still is the Gnar right here. He's trying to get onto Sharp, but he's basically really using his abilities in the back and doing so much AoE magic damage.
Yeah, and after all that, that's going to even up the Dragons now as well, which is real nice for Direwolves, who again, playing a very close game here versus Avant. 2,500 gold in the lead for the Wolves, but still have to find a few more fights like that. Perfection powering up, though. Banshee's Veil done for him. Corki's still moving on. Now has a null magic mantle in his inventory and avoids stuff halfway down or so for Sharp with the blasting one.
And you can see the difference in fights where they get an early pick and burst someone down, and when they try in vain to get to a backline that can do damage from so far away like Xerath right here. They need to double down on this vision advantage they've managed to create in the first 30 minutes of this game with their double Sightstone. And Direwolves, look, they just need to actually get a pink ward line up on the map. We look on the map right here. I believe there's only one pink ward towards the bottom of their own blue buff right here. Any sort of pink ward line to deny the LeBlanc picks coming out will really get this game in the manner towards Direwolves.
Yeah, and the Baron Vision, is still being contested by Avant for quite heavily. They've looked at that objective once already and kind of sneaking around there again. We have to make sure that Baron kind of stays in the back of our minds here because, yes, Dragons are powering up. The third one, actually, will be the next one that these two teams will fight for. They've both got two right now, but Baron's a big objective as well, and he's ready for the taking here for either team.
Yeah, there's no Blade of the Ruin King completed for Ezreal right here, so because it's the blue Ezreal, he's actually one of the weakest carries in terms of taking down Baron, but we have to respect the percentage health damage coming out from both Gnar and Vi. It's almost surprising the amount of health damage and damage to Baron that this top laner and jungler is able to do right here. So there could be an interesting situation where they leave Ezreal to wave clear in mid and then try and take that sneaky Baron, but because they've been caught once with their hand in the cookie jar trying to take that Baron, probably not going to happen a second time.
I mean, I think you hit it there. Avant really don't need to put hands in the cookie jar. Just put pink wards in the jungle and try and get picks with your very farm LeBlanc here. And Avant have just played really strong around structures, but maybe not as well throughout the jungle.
Yeah, if Direwolves are allowed to be reactive right here and the pick goes wrong, Avant will lose a fight. But they've got the Vi ultimate. They've got a hugely overtuned Kensti on this LeBlanc. If they can't make the picks work, it's their own fault.
King CS is still getting more and more insane, by the way. 363 at 33 minutes. This man is a beast.
I mean, he's huge. He's huge on Corki. The mid game, it's never going to become a true late game situation with just how far ahead he is right here. Checking the gold, it's about 4,000 gold is the leader. Completed Infinity Edge, to give you context for that number. If he decides to go down that way, he's got a bit of magic resist right here just to stop the assassination potential from LeBlanc. He's massive, but again, it's on Avant to play proactively right here because in the late game, you know what's going to happen. If Xerath's ever able to pick up a Baron buff, push in, clear waves from massively far away, it's hard to close that distance without overextending.
Yeah, you mentioned King before. I really like this pickup in his inventory. He's got a very reasonably quick Silver Sash.
It's not going to be enough magic resist to deal with a Void Staff, Death Cap, a LeBlanc, let's be real, but it will stop that chains from doing damage, and maybe he'll be able to evacuate and get away from any subsequent damage coming out right there. And look, to be honest, he shouldn't be face-checking any brushes at Corki, so if he plays safely, the QSS could provide a lot of utility. But, I mean, we're just kind of waiting for Avant to find the engage they're looking for.
Yeah, pretty curious to see Truffle actually going with the Talisman as well. You mentioned that, King's going to have struggled to stay alive against the LeBlanc combo, and you're right. But no Mikhail's here for Truffle right now, going for the more aggressive Talisman of Ascension. And no Locket looking to be completed either by Dial so far. So all that magic damage that Kenzie's doing, and he's doing a lot of it right now, it all sticks.
It definitely does stick, but I mean, what is really the value of 20 more magic resist compared to this LeBlanc? LeBlanc's going to be bursting down one target. The AoE damage could be impressive. She Soul Strikes, he's a very tanky man, but still eating a lot of damage on every trade from that LeBlanc as well. Direwolves, again, they need to focus on vision. That's what they need, and that's what they do not have.
Yeah, there's been a lot of vision dropped here, actually. Avant have really just got control of this top side of the map near the Baron Pit, and that's about it. Soul Strikes. He's going to see some people with the Tremor Sense as well, and Avant trying to set up a cute little brush, but again, will be spotted here with the borrowed Rek'Sai. And Avant are dancing very heavily around this Baron, but Direwolves are starting to push out and get more vision. They do actually have 2 pink boards in their inventory, so I think they're trying to get the counter pink land set up.
And you can see how smart Perfection is grouping with his team here and helping them take down wards. If he was looking to split push to capitalize on just how strong he is 1v1, the 4 members left of Direwolves would have no chance of being able to check the brush and clear these wards because they'd be scared of all the burst potential coming out of LeBlanc and Vi right there. So he needs to stay grouped with his team as much as possible to help them clear wards because that's where the real power of this Vi is important right now.
Yeah, we see Shelby now popping back into the jungle also, and King has really been the recipient of a lot of that split push farm as well. So it seems like Corky's the one that's doing Perfection's other job while he stays grouped with his team. Although Shelby did clear out another camp. Still looking good here on this fight. Very tanky, which is always the worry with Vi. You don't really want to go into that, get blown up instantly. You want to sponge as much damage as possible.
They've had enough pressure, Direwolves, to get that very, aggressive, but the excellent defensive pink ward near the Baron Pit right there, so they know they're not going to get picked putting vision on that Baron, so they feel safe enough to start the split push, to start grouping away. 20 seconds to the next Dragon right here. I believe both teams are going to be contesting for their third. Avant will really want it, because where they've won this game has been in those mid-game rotations right here. So to have that extra move speed will help them. But I mean, move speed is a stat that everyone craves.
It's actually interesting that only 4 turrets have been taken from Avant. They rotated so well for the initial outer turrets and really pressured a lot of the tier 2s as well. But Direwolves have held on to both their top and bottom lane tier 2 turret and been able to take 4 turrets themselves. So Direwolves instead will start up the next Dragon now. And Dragon's going to die very quickly, especially with his Corki damage. And goodbye, Dragon.
Yeah, staying grouped is so smart by Direwolves right here, because as a 5-man unit, they are significantly stronger than Avant unless they are picked and lose a member instantly right here. So Perfection at the front with the Banshee Veil right now cannot really be deleted. And look, Avant are actually being out-rotated in movement slightly right here, but we'll probably have to back away. No, it's good aggressive movement on the map by Direwolves.
Yeah, Rek'Sai Tremor Sense helping out. There's just some poke being kind of thrown blindly to see if they can stop any backs. And Direwolves will continue to pressure. Now, if any of these Corki Trinity Force hits land on that turret, it's going to melt very swiftly.
Yeah, every auto is going to be doing such a burst of damage to that structure right there, but they're forced to back away. We've actually had surprisingly little neutrals picked up in the last 5 to 10 minutes of this game just because it's so tense between both teams. Avant understand what they need to do, but they've actually been against a Direwolves team that have grouped very smartly and done their best to deny the vision advantage that the double Sightstone has created right here. So both teams playing to their win conditions. Unfortunately for us, the viewers, means the game's been just a little bit quiet.
I mean, you mentioned win conditions. I touched on turrets earlier. I think it's fairly funny that neither of these teams actually siege particularly well. Maybe the Xerath's decent in some sort of poke, but Avant have so much good engage that you can't really just sit there and poke forever and expect not to get engaged.
I mean, I'd say the Direwolves team has a good siege comp, but as you point out, there's so much linear engage. The Vi is actually the one that's haranguing them away from trying that just because the Assault and Battery, it's very hard to mess it up. You just click on the right target and you go straight in. So because it's so reliable, you can see Direwolves are reticent to go for those aggressive sieges. and instead they fall back on the counterpoint of this. If you're good at sieging, you're probably good at wave clearing as well, so that's kind of why we're getting a bit of quiet times.
One hell of a Baron attempt though by Dials. Kenzie going to collapse the tunnel, and Avant actually have to immediately, Dials have to immediately back off. King getting low there, trying to cut off to Kenzie, but Kenzie wants to dive in. A good Valkyrie will keep him away, but the True Drop Rush going to follow in, and bad game though. No Meganar available. He's going to melt here. Chuffer going back in for the stun. Soul Strike's going to zone him out. Perfection going to clean some more through as well. So Chuffer, we're going to get more stuns down. Shelby in a whole host of trouble. Going to go down there as Perfection gets yet another kill. And that was a weird bait, but it worked out 2-0 Wolves.
Yeah, the Direwolves were actually team fighting very smartly right there. They were actually grouping into two-man groups with one person peeling for a carry. And that is why they won that fight, just because it was the solo dive coming out from Avant against the smart teaming fighting from Direwolves. So excellent play right there.
Yeah, going to get the Baron, and that's going to be a good siege breaker, but here's a replay.
So we'll see the replay. So much damage coming onto King, but watch Soul Strikes right here. He understands how low King is, and he fights right next to him against this frontline Gnar right here, and allows King to put out so much more damage this fight than he should really have been able to. Perfection finally gets onto Shelby. They change targets away from Ezreal, realizing they're never going to shut him down. And again, very good team fight mechanics from Direwolves to pick up that Baron.
Very impressive, and King has picked up a Bloodthirster for himself now as well. 450 CS almost now and counting. He's almost he's 200 CS ahead of Missouri.
It feels like King is going to be a name that we're going to remember right here, as he's putting in a very impressive performance. He has so much lifesteal at this point, about 32%, probably 35% lifesteal or so coming out right here. That once he has the shield up from his Bloodthirster with that magic resist, he's sitting on a nice little bit of magic resist right here. He's going to actually be surprisingly tanky for an AD carry.
Yeah, the QSS looking good. The Scimitar, the only real item he can get left. Now it's Soul Strike going to go into the back end though. King going to get very aggressive on his Corki, but this tower's going to melt under the Wolves' pressure now as well. Perfection's even off towards the Baron area without his teleport. The Wolves feeling very confident.
Yeah, the Baron buff is finally the go button to start sieging right here. They feel they're just confident enough to be able to take down these objectives. Now, when you get to inhibitor turret, it's so much more narrower in terms of terrain right here. There's so many good spots for that Gnar ultimate to come in and change a fight that they're going to be a little bit less assertive unless they go for a real full-on dive through Chuffer.
They're just going in pretty aggressively. King almost face-checking the turret there for himself, but they're confident in the Baron minions. Baron really is the siege breaker, and with both these teams having somewhat awkward siege potential, although Direwolves now in this position looking very strong, they're very happy here just to be able to have a clean way to take out turrets.
And Perfection has moved the Baron up minions into the mid lane right here. Now he's splitting against Gnar. He still has a pretty significant advantage right there and has very good turret damage with the Trinity Force procs. Of course, he's not going to kill Gnar anytime soon, but getting some little chip damage onto that mid turret.
Yeah, so King maybe has to be careful. Shelby getting aggressive, but King immediately Valkyrie's out of the way, and Sharp and Chuffer playing pretty far back. Basically, all three members of Dials in this 4v4 push. Man, oh my god, that ulti did so much damage.
The ult did a third of his health there, Pastry Time. That's how overtuned this Xerath is right there. We're lucky to catch that last burst of damage, but they're going to dive this turret right now.
This turret's dead.
And in the mid lane, Perfection's buying so much time, his team's going to push down an inhibitor.
Yeah, Shelby's actually there as well. Perfection going to get dunked now by the ultimate for Vi. Flashes out. Might be okay. It pops around him as well. Sharp going to move in. King going to rotate through as well. And now bad game though. Caught out in mini Gnar form in a bad spot there. King going to come in for some good damage there as well. And now Dives will continue to push down this turret. Kenzie actually slays Chuffer in towards the bottom, but the Wolves, they don't matter. They're taking structures.
Yeah, they're team fighting and moving around the map so well right there. It was very interesting to see bad game low and Shelby trying to contest Perfection in the mid while they lost their inhibitor in the bot lane. That's not a trade you ever want to opt into, and this could be the end.
Yeah, good stun there moving through as well. Just missing back game low, but the slow dead lane. King goes deep there onto Kenzie. Wants to 1v1 on the block. He's going to get the double. We'll line up the triple now as well. Back game low and Mega Gnar will try and keep them up, but the Wolves are relentless now.
Yeah, through all the distortions and a Mikhail's Crucible, able to kill that LeBlanc. You can see how much magic resist and effective health this Corki has. They might try and end the game.
I mean, they're going to maybe look for it here. Missouri, he's going to get the kill into Soul Strikes. King going to look for the next one, but it's a little low on mana. He's taking the turret. It's going to go down. He's going to go in for the Nexus maybe as well. He does use the heal. The ulti coming in for Xerath. Maz almost going to die again, but dodges the last two bolts. A triple kill for Ezreal. Avant, hold on.
But what are they holding on to exactly here, Pastry Time? Their base is in complete ruins. Both the mid and bot inhibitor turrets down. Smart of Bad Game will actually to teleport to the top lane right here. He's pushing in that wave. He's bought a bit more global gold by taking that top turret right here, but realistically not going to get any more of an advantage. And it's quite a lot of work for the fiercely single-target Ezreal to clear out these super minions.
Yeah, I mean, Chopper running in his own. Now Sharp will clean into AoE the minions here. So Wolves will very valiantly defend the top side of the map. Perfection, his teleport's going to be back very soon now as well. And Bad Game Law will not have that option available to him.
And it's kind of a really unfortunate situation for Avant, but now that the pick game is really not going to work, given that they're so far entrenched in their base, you look down this team lineup right here, and in terms of wave clear, you've got the Mimic Distortion coming out from Vi. A bit of AoE damage coming out from this Ezreal, but it's definitely not as strong, so there's not much they can do.
Mizzou getting poked in here as well. Shelby going to try and get the third dragon, and does, but Chopper might look for stun here onto Juni. So much poke as well here by Sharp Seraph. I wonder if he's going to stun. But again, Soul Strike's actually coming in there onto Kenzie. Perfection's moving in as well here on his Aurelia, and Kenzie going to dive in towards the fountain, and they might just face take all this damage to kill the Nexus. Backgammon and Kenzie can't do anything at all about it, and Direwolves will clean out the Nexus in style.
Direwolves, tanky frontline that we commended for fighting so well. They were able to shrug off that damage, no problem, and finish the game with the Trinity Force procs. Direwolves, there was such a lull in the mid game. We weren't sure if they'd be able to turn it on, but the moment they got the fight they wanted around Baron, they turned it on, and the win came shortly after.
And a good thing to mention there as well, that was one of the weirdest baits I might have ever seen. Perfection used his teleport, and Rek'Sai ulted instantly to get on top of that Baron, but as soon as they saw Avant coming, they knew they could win the fight.
And maybe that was just a situation of using those kind of obvious movements right there to bait the fight they wanted. They knew they could win, and given the team fight mechanics they showed, they must have been confident. So we'll jump to a replay here to get a bit more indication of this game. This is quite early into the game. Low kill score at this point, very even. Direwolves up a few thousand gold right here, but not a lot much. It's all in that global gold. So we'll roll the tape right here. And we start with this siege on the inner turret. It'll be a very early inner turret to pick up right here. And that's why we see Chelby with the engage right here. And he gets the Wombo first kill instantly right there. And the second kill comes up, and Direwolves, you look at them and think, all right, they're running away, they're in trouble. But remember, so much gold on both Perfection and Sharp at this point, both with their Trinity Force power spikes, and even in a completely outnumbered situation, they're just so utterly strong. Naga manages to get away just through sheer tankiness, where they change targets onto Juni. And this was a consistent flavor for Direwolves, was their team fighting. So smart team fighting coming out from their jungler and top laner right there. They were able to combo with their carries and fight well in situations where they were just able to call out targets, call out frontliners who were trying to dive that Corki, dive the Xerath, peel them off, and that's what won them the game.
Yeah, a really great choke from the Wolves, but don't get anywhere. We'll be back after